Hey everybody, it's Joe Pro, and today I have something you guys have been waiting for. A lot of you have been asking me to do this for a year or two now. It is to finally continue my Mario Maker courses, my Paper Mario Maker courses. First off, got my ID right there. If you'd like to follow me on Mario Maker 2, go ahead and do that. And I have 2 courses up already. You can try those out. And yeah, so we're going to go ahead and get started with the first one. I just uploaded it. Nobody's even played it yet. It is Paper Mario 64 Chapter 2. And you got the course ID on screen here if you'd like to try it out for yourself. Also, I'm going to put on screen right now the prologue from Mario Maker 1 and Chapter 1, and then the Koopa Brothers Fortress, and also the Pit of 10 Trials, which is kind of a reference to the Thousand Year Doors Pit of 100 Trials. So I have quite a few Paper Mario inspired courses for you guys to check out, and click on the icon up on the top of the screen if you'd like to try out and watch the video where I explain how some of those were made earlier in my channel. Anyways, this is Chapter 2 of Paper Mario 64, so I'll walk you guys through it. Unfortunately, in this game, you have to kind of leave this area open, is what it is. We got some bushes here. We got, over here, a save block, just like in the game. We got the train station, complete with railroad tracks, and a red train that is ready to go. And then up here, you start climbing up the mountain. You got a few little ledges you got to jump up onto, and then you come up here, and you have a gray block that you can't normally pass, but if you do, you come over here to your partner upgrade block. Then you got an arrow that shows us to head up this way, where you can find a HP block, and Paracarry, which of course, if you hurt Paracarry, it does not like that very much, but you can indeed kill Paracarry. He'll come back later. So Paracarry in the game wants us to bring him 3 letters before he helps us. So we enter our loading zone here. This is what represents loading zones. It's a new thing I decided to do with this level, and so this brings us over to our next screen. And so we come in here, we got a slide, we can climb up. We got a mole that we can kill, just like in the game. And if you come down here, you can get the sleepy sheep, and then there's another mole that pops out at you that you can kill. And then this represents the sleepy sheep box. Then you got a normal yellow block that you can destroy. And then you come over here and you got Mr. Wacka himself, and you can get a Wacka bump. And this is how I decided to illustrate Wacka. Now, one thing that made this course extremely difficult to make, it took me 15 hours to make this course, is that the semi-solid platforms, you make up all of the mountain and the dungeon, which we'll see later, and so those don't overlap very well, and it's very tricky to get them to work. But anyway, we go through the next loading zone, and we come up here to another save block, just like in the game. Now, we can keep going this way, kill some more moles if we'd like to. There's another one that comes up. That was the Quake Hammer. That is the badge, and that's where the POW block is. So you saw the mole that ran down this way. You can climb up these platforms, and normally you would use Cooper or Paracarry. Well, you won't have Paracarry yet, so you would use Cooper to get that, that letter. That was our first letter, represented by 1 red coin. So we need 3 red coins or letters to progress. So we go through another loading zone. If you go this way, this is that little gap that brings you over to the little flower seed man, and that's where you'd get that. Otherwise, you would head up this incline, and then you would head through the next loading zone. Now, this loading zone would bring you to the spot where you cannot progress unless you have Paracarry, because you can't make this jump without Paracarry. And so I blocked that off, but you can fall down below, and you'll find another letter down below, along with a trampoline that will get you back up to the top. So now in the game, the original game, you have to backtrack a little bit with your 2 letters, and you still have 1 more to find, which is the hardest one. Now, if you come up here, you can get a star piece on the little bridge platform, and then you can head back down and head back a loading zone. Now, we've already been through here. So in the original game, there's some climbing you do around here in this area, and then you take a slide which brings you over to another area. But unfortunately, that area, all of that is a lot of stuff to do for 1 letter, and there just wasn't room to do that in this game, so that is one of the only places I had to make a cut. And so we cut that, and instead, you can just head right up and get the letter, much easier than in the real game, and then you can, of course, slide down one of those slides, just like you would. Now we have all 3 letters, so we can, of course, return to Paracarry by going back another loading zone. Alright, So on our way back, we can go ahead and take this slide as well, always fun, and then progress through the loading zone. Now, of course, I killed Parakarry, and he didn't come back like I thought he would, but we bring Parakarry the letters, which gives us our new partner, Parakarry, which in this case is represented by a P block. And there's Parakarry, he's back. So since we can't actually take him with us, we will just take this P block all the way back to the spot where we could not progress, which is right here. Now if we use this, we can finally cross this platform, and we can see the mini boss that's hanging out up there as well, but thankfully we don't have to fight her as we cross the bridge and head down the side of Mount Rugged, down through another loading zone into Dry Desert. So we got the little water tower here, we got an HP block and a save block, and we're good to go. Hit our checkpoint. Now the desert doesn't have a whole lot to do in the real game, and so I kept it kind of short and sweet. We got this little blue tent here with Colorado the Koopa inside. We got a Pokey right here, just your typical yellow Pokey that's represented in red. And then we have the gray cactus along with the tornado. And then we have the area at the end where you have a lot of tall palm trees, which here are mushrooms. Now, if you go further north in the desert, which is represented by up, you can find Dry Ruins, but we can't quite see Dry Ruins yet because we need to go into the outpost and get that to reveal itself. So to do that, we will continue along into Dry Outpost. All right, so I had to make a little bit of cuts here, but you got your first building, you got the item shop building, you got that blue pipe that comes up later in the game, you got the tall house, which is Mustafa's house, but you can't get up there, and then you have a little red building, and then you have a yellow building, and then you have the blue building that Mustafa is blocking the entrance to, who is here represented by this little piranha man. Little biter dude. So just like in the original game, you have to go into the shop and buy a dried shroom followed by a dusty hammer. So we go into the shop and you get to see the inside of the building. Everything outside is exactly the same. And first you buy the dried shroom. So we bought that. And then you're able to go through and buy the dusty hammer. And you have to do it in that correct order. Then we could take that once we bought both of those things over here and Mustafa gets out of the way, and you can go through the side of the house over to these things that you can climb. You take the roof, you climb across, and you're inside of the greenhouse, which is Mustafa's house. And just once again, you can see the inside of the house. You get the key, which is the gem from the game, and that will allow you to enter and reveal Dry Ruins. Alright, so we come back up here to Dry Ruins, and now we can finally reveal the entire ruins as the magic powers go all around us, and we can finally see what it looks like. So we go on and head on inside. Brings us to this creepy room. We got two columns here. We have a save block represented by a checkpoint. And now we've reached the dungeon itself. So this gets a little tricky. We start off with 2 Pokies. In the game, it's 3. And then this is where things get really cool. So we have stairs that lead up and stairs that lead down. Now in the original game, you have to go down first. You get a key, which then you can go to the upper floor on, and then you push a button which drops sand down below and allows you to get out of the lower room. So here, we grab the key, just like in the game. We head up the stairs into the upper room, and then from the upper room, you're able to hit a switch which drops sand down below. It funnels through the ground. And isn't that awesome? The sand, represented by the red-blue blocks, goes down below and creates a platform into the next section. So here we got some stairs going all sorts of different places. The first thing we need to do is we need to get a key that is in here, but in the original game you can't quite reach it. So you have to go upstairs and do the same thing again. So you come up here and you use Bombette to break a hole in the wall, and then that bomb there represents Bombette. So we do that, and then we have to get through here, and we can push another switch, which drops the sand down to the room below, and we can get the key. Now, of course, I've already used all of the doors that I'm allowed to due to the restrictions of Mario Maker 2, and so I had to instead represent that with a coin, but because we hit that switch, it opens up this path. Alright, so anyways, so now that we've gotten that imaginary key, the door is open. Now over here there's a chain chomp room, but we can't do anything about that yet because we don't yet have our better hammer. So we're gonna have to come back and backtrack there later. Now in this room you can get up here and get an artifact that belongs to Colorado, and then there's also some Pokies that you need to defeat. Weirdly enough though, in Mario Maker, even though they're here, they don't always load up properly. It's something about the rooms and going in between them, but pretend there's Pokies there. So then you can head over here and you can place Bombette into another crack in the wall, which destroys it, giving us a new path. But before we head down that way, we're going to go over here into the Hammer Puzzle Room Chamber. And just like in the original game, there's some red and blue platforms, or they might be green and red platforms, that alternate and swivel. And so you have to solve the puzzle to get behind this door, which leads you to the hammer, and in this case, a fire flower. So you first head up to the middle, you hit a switch, which allows you to get up to this block, and then you can get to this block, and then finally, you can head up here and hit this block, which allows you to reach the treasure room. This is one of my absolute favorite parts of the entire course, and really any of the Paper Mario courses I've made. I thought it was really, really cool. These on-off switches work perfectly for this level. So now that we have that, we can go ahead and head downstairs, and this brings us to the room that we need the moon, diamond, and star rocks gems that will allow us to go down and fight the boss and finish the level. But in this game, I've already used up all of my doors and key options, and so I had to get creative here. And so the first thing that we can do is we can drop down below here, just like in the game. And now, since we have the hammer, we can defeat this guy, which lets us get this P-switch here. Now we can run around and take this P-switch back up here, and this represents the key, of course. You can take this key up here, which allows you to get into this room. And once you're in this room, you can lower the sand into the room below, which allows you to cross it and go into this room to fight the first chain chomp. And we hit that, and that lets us destroy those little things over there, those little piranha biters. So we've gotten one of the chain chomps. Now we got to go back and get the others before we can go through that pipe, because otherwise we'll get put to a point where we can no longer progress. So we come in here, we use our hammer to defeat this guy, and then we get past the other chain chomp, which is, you know, he's kind of locked up, so he's not too difficult for us to get past. And then we can use this shell that we used after beating the second chain chomp to come in here and hit this switch, which we have to have that shell for. Now that we've hit that switch, we can progress. And see, there's those Pokies I was talking about. So now we're going to be able to come through here. The only switch of all of these that you can hit that will let you get through there is that one, because any of the other switches, you'll get locked out of this room. And so once you've hit all three chain chomps, you have to hit all three. You have to destroy all three and get all three gems. We go through a little detour up here real quick. And then we're finally in the room, in the chamber where the floor drops out with the pillars where you put the gems, except they're already there. Now, if we hadn't hit that last on-off switch, then we'd come in here, we wouldn't be able to progress. But we can progress, so we head down the stairs, down towards the final boss. Now we have a health block if we need it, and then we head down some more stairs into the final room where you can save your progress in the original game, and then now we're going to go fight the boss, so I hope you guys are ready for this. So, Chompy starts attacking us right off the bat. Alright, and then we got Tut and Koopas up there on his ledge. We got to get him knocked down, so we're going to go ahead and hit that. And then another Chomp comes because he always respawns once you destroy him. So we're going to take him out first once again, and we're going to drop Tut and Koopa down another level. Now Tut and Koopa is finally here, and this boss fight is just like in the original game where he's throwing little blue Buzzy Beetle shells at you, and you need to throw them back at him. So we're going to hit one more, and then Chompy comes out again. So we destroy Chompy, the last Chompy, and then now we struggle to defeat Tut and Koopa because I'm just absolutely failing. So you can either throw the shells at him, or you can just step on him, and then Tut and Koopa is destroyed, which means we can go ahead and hit this last switch and hit this, and we get the Star Spirit. They get the second Star Spirit in the game, and that gives me a trampoline which I can use to exit the dungeon. So I had a lot of fun making this boss fight. Thought it was super cool. So we get out of here and we see the Star Spirit going up into Star Haven. And that ends the level. That's it. So not too difficult. Did take a long time just to get everything correct and spaced out and all that. So if you want to stick around for a few more minutes, I was going to show you a few things about how I made it. So this is going to be a behind the scenes real quick. Alright, so the first thing I wanted to show you is that before you get to the boss, while you're up in this save room, there's a bit of an Easter egg, which is if you jump up, it's kind of hard to hit it. There's an invisible block, and this is something only you guys would ever find, my awesome subscribers. So you can come up here and you can get up above the boss chamber. And I have scroll stop on the right side, but if you use this bomb and blow up this wall, it reveals a secret room, which is a message to you guys. It is a message that says, "Thanks for watching Joe Pro." And so if you do come across my course or want to play it, just keep that in mind. You can always come out here and get your coins and your special message, and then you can just head back down and fight the boss as normal. Now, I wanted to show you a little bit of the course itself. So we start out here, Mount Rugged, I'm sorry. We got the train, as I showed you. We head over here, and then that's where we see Paracarry. Mount Rugged's pretty basic. I mean, it's just a lot of overlapping semi-solids, which is the hardest part, but there's nothing too crazy going on here. Once again, did the whole loading zone thing. We did the red coins represent the 3 letters. We have the slides. I did cut out that one area of the of Mount Rugged because it was a little bit too much, but normally you would access that through here. You would continue moving left, and then there would be an area that stays up above, and then eventually you'd get over here and you'd get that letter. But there just wasn't going to be enough room with Mario Maker's with size limits, you know. So then we come up here. Now, a few things that really made this course possible that Mario Maker 1 didn't have. One is scroll stop. That really came in handy in the dungeon. One is slopes, because it is a mountain. And then the number one thing was the on-off switches that we see in the dungeon. That was huge. Without those on-off switches, you really couldn't do this. I thought that this texture worked really well for the bird's nest here. And then we head down to the desert. Another thing I wanted to point out is I was tempted to use Super Mario Bros. 3 as the art style because it had more of a desert feel, whereas Super Mario World uses the Cocoa Mountain theme, and so it doesn't fit quite as well, but Mario Bros. 3 is a little bit too limited, so I did go ahead and use Mario World, just like I did in the other Paper Mario courses. Now, we continue on here. Everything's still pretty basic. You got Dry Ruins up here. I kind of rebuilt it and then made it where it was blocked off until you get that gem. And then you head over here further. And then this pipe brings you to Dry Outpost. And then this is the end of the level once you beat the boss. And so that's the entire upper part of the course. And so the desert and the mountain is in the upper part of the course. And then the village and the dungeon is in the lower part, and the lower part is much more complicated. So we'll go and show that off now. So here is the outpost, and that's pretty self-explanatory, but then there's a scroll stop, and then over here is the outpost again, but showing the inside of the shop, and then everything else is just copy and pasted over. And then if you come even further, here's the outpost again, but it's showing the inside of Mustafa's house, and then everything is copy and pasted over. But it doesn't even have the full house over here because you don't really need to see it. And then over here, it just resets again. So then you go from here to here, and it's just the same thing because you can't see it. That's just all backstage stuff, if you will. And so that was really cool. So I had to use quite a few sets of doors, including one set of doors that actually connects 2 different buildings. But you never have a chance to use those doors because that's off stage. So then you have another scroll stop, and you get to the dungeon itself. You enter the dungeon here, you walk on through, you beat your pokies and all that, and that's all self-explanatory. Once again, the on-off switches really were key. I couldn't have made this course in Mario Maker 1. If you noticed, I didn't even try, but then for Mario Maker 2, I did. I had a lot of trouble getting the 3 chain chomps thing to work. In the game, you have to destroy all 3 chain chomps, and then you get 3 gems, which you use to go to the final boss. Since I wasn't able to put any more doors, if I could put infinite doors, then I could have made all of them have a key, and then you would have needed 3 keys to get through 3 doors, and that would have been great. But it just wasn't possible to do that, so worked with what I had and made it work. You get some pokies in here, as I said, And then, of course, this room with the on-off switch was pretty great. Yeah, and then I forgot to mention too, but I made some cuts here. This is the power block for your partners, and there's normally a trampoline right here that I removed just so you couldn't use it to progress through other parts of the level and break the level. This part, normally you use bombette and then you fall down a long drop, and then you can go to the left to this area, or you can go to the right to this area, but there just wasn't enough space for that. This is the bottom of the course, and so it's kind of a miniature version of what's normally there. And then over here, this is all pretty much the same, and the fact that you go up here and fight a chomp, and then you get another gem, which allows you to get through here, but I did have to change all of this area. Instead of getting your 3 gems and then immediately dropping through the floor to the boss, I had to make it where you get your 3 gems, you warp to the overworld, then you warp back to the underground, and then you drop through the floor to the boss. So it's a little bit different, but it still has the same purpose. And then this block is just here in case you hit this block over here, and then it will actually lock you out of going anywhere because of these blue blocks, and so you can't even come back up here to get another shell. And so this block's just here in case you need it, but that's why it's covered with a red one. That way you can't just use this one to go down here, if that makes sense. So then you warp to the above ground, and then you immediately warp back down into this area, which also has a scroll lock, and then you can drop down here, and then you can fight your final boss, which, I mean, you can see how that's laid out. Basically, each time you hit the on-off blocks, Tut and Koopa and the chomps fall further down. You have to fight 3 chomps, and then you can fight Tut and Koopa, and then once you do that, you can get your Star Spirit and progress on to the end of the level. So that's the course, guys. Thank you so much for watching. That's really all there is to it, but I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to try out the level. Once again, right now, I'll put the course codes for all of the original Mario Maker levels in addition to this level from Mario Maker 2. If you want me to make more Paper Mario levels, I'd like to, but the channel's ending in a few weeks. So follow me on Mario Maker 2. I will be continuing to make courses on there even after my YouTube channel ends. And so, yeah, make sure to follow me on Mario Maker, and I will see you guys in a few days or a week or so for another Paper Mario video that's coming out soon. So thank you for watching. Joe Pro, smiley face. Bye-bye.